Start the meeting. I'll call it to order. If we could have a roll call, please.
Chair Gross,
Here.
Vice Chair DeBolt,
Here.
Commissioner Andre, absent. Commissioner Quilty. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, here.
Commissioner Lowe,
Here.
Commissioner Riley, absent. And Commissioner Suffolcanic.
Here.
Thank you.
Do we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
No.
Again. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
For which it
Stands
One
nation
under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
for all. Thank you. Do we have any oral communications?
No public comment was received by the 4 o'clock cutoff time.
Okay, thank you. Do I have approval of the minutes for April 28th?
Move approval.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Chair Gross,
Approved?
Vice Chair DeBolt,
Aye. Approved.
Commissioner Andre, absent. Commissioner Quilty,
Approved.
Commissioner Lowe,
Aye.
Commissioner Riley, absent. And Commissioner Suffolcanic.
Same.
Thank you. And then item number 6, the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for giving me this opportunity to come before you tonight. Looks like I caught you all on a light agenda night, which is, I think, actually fortuitous given the topic that we're going to discuss. Obviously, the idea of, what you and this board deals with every day is, very direct and very important to the city. And so I thank you all for, continuing to do this via Zoom. I know that it's less than ideal. One of the things for tonight is a little bit more abstract. It's really about talking about where exactly we might go as a city and some of the opportunities that I can see, or that staff and I can see, as we start to put together this year's budget. I think, as all of you know, June, July is typically the budget season for municipalities. And I'll be the first to tell you that it's either a very great time or a horrible time, depending on what exactly the numbers show. So just as a point of reference, I'd like to kind of show you what exactly we were facing about a year ago. Marie, could you go to the first slide?
Yes.
So I'm sure you're all familiar with this slide. I know that you've probably seen it in many different forms throughout the last couple of years through the city's education efforts and then also through the budget process. When I first arrived here, the city was struggling with a $1.4 million deficit in this last budget year. It was something that the city took very seriously and worked very hard to close that budget gap through a series of cuts, furloughs, and really trimming down a lot of the programs and projects that we were planning on accomplishing that past year. Pleased to see that we made it through the year, still coming in on budget, and that we obviously have seen a lot of changes into the way that the city is being financed, given the passage of Measure Y. Obviously, that 1.6 number was definitely a scary issue that we were going to have to face. And now that we have had the benefits of the voters' approval this past November, the revenue numbers obviously look a little bit different. Now, the reason that I wanted to bring this item before all of you is that the Budget Standing Committee, probably more so than in the past, has really kind of opened up the idea that we want to include as many voices as we possibly can into how exactly the city starts to plan for its future. You can all see from the numbers just by doing some simple math that it basically allows for there to be between around $2 million to $2.5 million of surplus every single year going forward with the implementation of Measure Y. Now, that type of money can be transformative for a city of this size. What the council and the budget standing committee are looking to do is really to engage all of the different commissioners into a discussion about what exactly we might achieve with those funds. Obviously, this gives us an opportunity to start doing some long-term planning as we start to kind of put projects into the hopper. This will be kind of a opportunity for all of you and then all of your fellow commissioners to really kind of put your stamp on the budget process and also to allow for some, I guess, creative thinking as we move forward. If we can go to that next slide, please. Now, the council did say that we weren't going to do this in a vacuum, that there were going to be some rules and some things that we all needed to really kind of take into consideration when we started to put together this year's budget and future budgets. As you all know, prior to the adoption of the measure and then after the adoption of the measure, the council voted and unanimously approved a fiscal sustainability pledge. Now, the idea behind this was to really try to govern the way that we made decisions going forward, that there would be a hierarchy of needs that the staff was going to be responsible for making sure fell into the budget, and that we addressed these issues as they came up. So if I can, I'd like to take you through these very quickly. The first one being public safety. Obviously, near and dear to, I think, every single Los Al resident's heart is our police department. One of the things that we were going to be working on in this coming year is really getting our police officers back into the neighborhoods and deploying them in different ways where we allow for our residents to get an opportunity to really interact with our police department in a positive way. This includes adding back a number of officers, but also adding back a number of special assignments, such as motor officers. We're looking to reinstate the bike team so that we can get our officers out of their cars and actually into our neighborhoods. Walking beats so that they can actually go in and talk to business owners. Just different ways where we can actually create some touch points with the community with the police department. Next is maintaining some of those senior and youth programs that are vital to our city. You all know that we are probably a net importer of people coming to the city for different events put on by our rec department. They just received 2 awards at the last council meeting for their work during the pandemic. And I think if you take a look at the register today, you'll see that both Irvine and, Lake Forest are both now doing versions of programs that we have offered here since the pandemic started. So I'm really proud of the work that we've done in this space. We can only continue to get better. And so I think that some of the things that we're looking to add here in this coming year are going to be both a boon for the community in terms of just activities that they'll be able to go and take their families to, but also things that will continue to put, I think, Los Al on the map for surrounding communities. The next, obviously, I think probably one of the more important things that we need to be focused on as a city is our aging infrastructure. I'm sure you have all driven the streets, and I'm sure that you have all seen some of the conditions in some of the parks. These are places where a little bit of investment can really improve the overall look of the city. And so we'll be looking to really step up our efforts in order to deploy projects that have meaningful impacts on the city. And I'll get into that a little bit later as we go on. And last but not least is really trying to look for ways to stimulate the local economy. That means trying to basically pull our businesses and our community together and make sure that wherever we can, that we're committing to this idea that we want to buy local as much as we can. If I can go to the next slide, please. So I talked a little bit about infrastructure, and I wanted to put this slide up because I think it shows some of the ambitious work that we're trying to accomplish here. Just as a point of reference, for the last 2 years, the city has done about $300,000, give or take, in CIP projects. This year, we have an ambitious goal of putting $1.6 million of work out onto the street and being able to accomplish that within the year. My hat's off to your director here, Ron Noda, because he's obviously done a very impressive job of planning where exactly we're going to go, how exactly we're going to execute these projects, and that we're going to be able to get them done on time. And I will say, again, another place where my hat's off to the staff, is if you draw your attention to that box at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see that Ron has structured this in such a way where he's been able to basically draw upon all of those different funds that the city has access to, Measure M, gas tax, and others, in order to be able to fund the vast majority of these projects. You can see from that only 15% of the funds needed in order to accomplish $1.6 million worth of projects is coming from the general fund. So this is the kind of work that we're trying to focus on going forward, working smarter, trying to use other people's money in order to finance the projects that we're trying to do here in town, so that we have the other funds that are available to us open without any restrictions that we can go and deploy in other ways. Next slide, please. So you all remember that 1.6 negative number. This is what our projections look like at the moment, carrying ourselves forward. You can see that 2.2 that I mentioned before, strolling out to year 5 in fiscal year 25-26, where we're projecting that we'd have about $2.8 million that we'd be able to put on the street. Again, these are transformative type dollars when you start talking about in the excess of $1-2 million. But it also means that we have to start thinking strategically about where exactly we're going to put these funds out on the street. And again, that gets back to you all and your expertise and what you see during the course of your daily work, both coming and going to work, and then also as a member of this board, as to different places where we might be able to deploy some of these funds. And next slide, please. So we're in, like I said, the middle of the budget process right now. We've had our first review with the city council. Right now, we're doing individual reviews with each one of the council members. All of this information will be pulled together in one place, along with input from all of you and your other colleagues on other boards, essentially to take this back to the Budget Standing Committee, let them vet through the different ideas that come through, and then essentially take those to the city council for consideration. The important thing that I want to stress is that this is not a one-time deal. We are not going to be talking to you once and never coming back to see you again. I really see this as now as an annual practice. I like the idea of trying to get as much input as we possibly can from the people that are living this situation day in and day out, and really be able to build a master list of projects and ideas that we can then basically take back with staff, build out whatever research needs to be done, do whatever costing needs to be done, and be able to provide to the city council a clear picture of what the boards and commissions are thinking about as priorities, and then be able to start doing the strategic planning to talk about, well, we might not get to this project in year 1, but we get to it in year 3. We might not get to it in year 5, we might get to it in year 2. These are all parts of the effort that we're trying to do here in order to try to capture some of the opportunities that we have going forward. So with this, I'd like to run down this list, as these are ideas that have come up so far, just so you have some points of reference as to what staff and the council are already working on. But I also would like to give all of you the opportunity to have me be quiet for a minute and have you tell me where exactly some of the ideas that you've seen around town that you think might be helpful for us. And then also, I know that this is all being sprung on you all at once. And if you're anything like me, you're going to sign off of this call and you'll have an idea at about 11 o'clock tonight. Making sure that we have a clear line of communication for you to get those ideas back to the budget team so that we can start fleshing out what exactly it would take to turn them into real life projects. So the first I want to talk about, just because I know it's near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, is essentially an idea that was put forward by the council, which is to really take a really hard look at the way that we do our residential street improvements and commit to a cycle where we can hit every single residential street within the city within a given amount of time. I don't have it here for you guys to see tonight, but Ron has also put together a pretty ambitious residential street paving program where essentially we would deploy another $1.6 million worth of Measure Y funds in order to tackle this project and really get it off the ground. We would be dispersing these projects throughout the city so that no one neighborhood is taken all at once, so that we can see the benefit in every district and every neighborhood, and then plan these strategically so that we're not obviously impacting one neighborhood more than another. So making sure that we are staggering the projects so people can get in and out of their houses in a timely manner. The next is, it goes back to that FSP pledge that the council adopted, is a bunch of economic development initiatives. I'm sure you're all aware that the president recently signed the American Rescue Plan into law. What that does for the city is, over the next 2 years, we're going to have a total of about $2 million come to LaSalle from the Department of Treasury. These funds obviously have restrictions on them as to how exactly they can be spent. But at the moment, we believe that there is a great opportunity here to really deploy some of this money into different ways of promoting our businesses, putting money back into the local economy through a Scripps program and discounts at local businesses that basically provide benefit to our residents, and allowing them to really try to drive the local economy as much as we can. Number 3 kind of gets to one of the things that I was talking about before, just the condition of our parks. As you all know, we have a number of aging infrastructure needs at some of our parks: sunshades, playground equipment, transitioning from sand to the soft rubberized playground flooring for the kids. There's a number of different things that we can do there that I think just are needed and have probably been put off for far too long. Next is a urban forestry project. The goal here would essentially allow LaSalle to reclaim its title as a tree city. This goes to planting more trees in the parkways. This has a number of benefits, not to mention just the environmental benefits, but studies have shown that neighborhoods that have mature trees definitely have higher property values, and it does create a sense of community. And I think that everyone would agree that there is just a general aesthetic that goes with a neighborhood that has a number of well mature and maintained trees. Next, again, kind of follows along with that, we have a number of medians that are in need of some repair. I think that there's an opportunity there to really kind of increase the overall look and feel of what it means when you cross into LaSalle as a jurisdiction. I think we have some pretty clear defining lines as to when exactly you get into town, and I think that there's an opportunity to only continue to elevate that look as time goes on. Next is the neighborhood improvement projects. I think that we've all seen different areas within our neighborhoods where we have either cracked sidewalks, places that are raised a little bit more than we need, the opportunity for signage for each one of the neighborhoods in order to, clearly identify them. And I think that there's also just some general overall replanting that we can accomplish there as well. And then finally, this is one that takes a little bit of work, but is definitely well worth it, is looking into our future obligations with regards to pension and healthcare costs, and finding different ways for us to address that and try to mitigate those costs as we go forward. This is, again, something that's very important to the Budget Standing Committee. We want to make sure that we're taking advantage of every opportunity that we have out there to essentially lower our costs as time goes on. Much like making that extra mortgage payment, you do see a benefit at the end of the day. It's really just a question of how exactly we go about it in order to get the most bang for our buck. So these are the general slides. I promised Ron that I would try to keep this to under 5 slides. I know that my title slide makes it 6, so that obviously didn't quite happen. But I will say this, you guys are being saved the 83 slide budget presentation that we provided to the council. So I think we've cut it down effectively here. I'd like to, Madam Chair, if it's okay with you, I end my presentation at this point and really just receive any comments that you all might have, different ideas that you have been sitting on for a while, and now seems to be the time to kind of put everything onto the table and see what we can actually accomplish as we move through this budget cycle.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts they would like to share?
I have one comment. I'm glad you did bring up the underfunded pensions, because that was one thing when you had the first list, there was like, maybe we should put some money aside for that, because I know that's a big problem. But I love the part when you talked about the Tree City USA, because I live in Rossmore Highlands, and on my particular cul-de-sac, I think there's 16 houses. All but about 4 of us have taken out those parkway trees. And when I moved in, my parkway tree was gone, and the city planted one for me, which I appreciate. But I think if we're going to do it, I know in Rossmore, you're not allowed to pull out those parkway trees. Like, in order to do it, you have to get approval. I think that's something we should look at, because the difference between my block and even Pine behind me, where they have all the trees, it's a huge difference.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think that, again, one, we bring the entire program before the city council. We'll bring it with enough data to support the anecdotal ones that I'm making, that study after study shows that, the heating costs go down, the environmental impact is always a benefit. But then again, just the aesthetics that come from a visual like that do increase property values over the long run. And I'm sure all of you have probably seen some of those older neighborhoods in Pasadena where they have these beautiful old growth trees, and it'll take us a long time to get there. So don't think that we're going to have massive old trees starting tomorrow, but there is an opportunity here to really kind of create a uniform look for the city, probably by neighborhood, and really kind of take advantage of some of that parkway space.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any comments or suggestions? You're not on, Art. If you're talking, we can't hear you.
There we go. Okay. Just a couple comments and a couple suggestions. I'm of the opinion, you have only one chance, to make a good first impression. And when anybody drives into the city, at least coming in from the east, the medians are terrible. And at one time they were absolutely beautiful after they were put in, and the county funded that as part of the Smart Street projects. And they designed it, they put them in, and they were beautiful. And then I guess over the years, somebody decided not paying a water bill was more important than the aesthetics. So they turned the water off and, since killed just about everything off. So I think that if you're going to prioritize, and I think this all goes to the economic development, everything else. We want people to come to the city, but it looks like hell when you drive in from the east. And I think that's a priority. The medians, the first impression. I think money needs to be spent where the people can see it. That's one of my thoughts there. With respect to maybe spending some money, CIP money or whatever, I really think we ought to look at and this goes to an ongoing problem. I ran into one of the city inspectors this morning as he was driving the alley, I guess, kind of looking at the trash or the dumping situation. We had a little bit of a conversation. And so it kind of jogged my memory on this. I think at least in the alleys, another thing that's sparking this is that I had one of my tenants who live on Green called me today, and we were talking that her daughter had her catalytic converter stolen from her car while she was parked out on Green Street, I guess last night. I think we ought to consider possibly setting up video cameras, pointing down Green Street, pointing down the streets in the apartment areas where we have maybe some increased criminal activity, just so that if something occurs at a certain time and you can kind of pinpoint it, maybe the police get a license number of a car going in that area at the time. I'm not, I don't want to sound like Big Brother watching everything, but at the same time, I think, if cameras are placed judiciously and just to provide additional eyes, down the middle of the street, down, so you can do that. Likewise in the alleys. Doesn't have to be on every telephone pole, but enough where you can cover a decent stretch and at the same time be able to get license numbers, or if you see somebody doing something, it can be, memorialized so that it can be followed up on or something like that. I mean, that. And then my last thought had to do with the recreation department. When I was on the council, gosh, a long time ago, 98 to 02, we've always had a great rec department, but it's a great rec department that runs in a deficit pretty much, or used to. I don't know exactly where we are right now. But when you say we're a net importer of people, that was the same way back when I was on the council. I mean, and that's a tribute to the quality of the program. But at the same time, it comes with a cost, unless you're recovering those costs. I remember attending a Christmas dinner, or a dinner around not Christmas. It was I guess one of the senior citizen type lunch programs or something, and it was near the election season, so I'm going there to try to round up some votes, which turned out to be a shock. There was 8 or 10 tables with about 10 people at each one, or 8 people at each one. And the table I was sitting at, I'm talking with the people, and then I'm talking to find out where they live. There was not one person from Los Alamitos. One was coming from, two were coming from Rossmore, somebody from Long Beach because we were cheaper than Long Beach. It was, like that. So I think that if we're going to be, we've got a great rec program, I think we need to make sure that we recover the costs from the people that are partaking. If somebody's going to come in here and they should be paying more than what our citizens pay, and at the same time, those, it shouldn't be too much of a giveaway, in my opinion. I mean, it's one thing to try to generate revenue. You got to generate revenue, but you also have to control your expenses as well. So that's my thought on just what we heard for the brief amount that we heard it. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything they would like to discuss or mention?
Oh, I had one more question. Is the council considering at all increasing the hotel tax, especially with the new hotel going in? Because I know ours is lower than all the cities surrounding us.
It is, and that has been something that has been brought up with the Budget Standing Committee. It was brought up when it was before I arrived, with regards to different revenue generating measures that we could take a look at, as has, UUT and different various franchise fees and such. And this does get to kind of what I think what the vice chair is getting at too, is that if we're not constantly looking at the different opportunities that we have in front of us, then we're not doing our jobs. And I think that that's something that we're going to have to constantly be pushing forward, is where are we not matching up with surrounding cities in terms of what we're charging for certain services, and what exactly is the impact of that, and allowing the council to make that decision to either go forward with that or not go forward with it. But what I've committed to the city council and to the Budget Standing Committee is that we'll take all ideas. We will remove at least at the staff level, we'll remove any political ideology or anything that has to do with that, and just provide facts as to, if you were to go down this road, it would generate X. Here are the benefits, here are the constraints, and here's what it ultimately might generate for you at the end of the day. So yes, it is something that we're currently looking at. And quite frankly, in brief discussions with the hotel operators, if there is a way to funnel some of that money back in terms of promoting the city and trying to draw additional people to the city in order to use the hotel, then there's probably some support on that end for that kind of project as well. So
Yeah, and the nice thing about the hotel tax is it's probably not the citizens who are going to be paying it.
You are absolutely right.
Unless your house is getting tented and you're staying there.
Yeah, for me, it would be, I was going to make a joke about my in-laws staying there instead of staying at our house, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay. First off, I do. Do we have your cell number so tonight at 11 o'clock when I wake up remembering something, I can call you?
I believe that you know you can, of all people, probably can get a hold of me pretty easily, right? It is that I realize that this presentation it's short on a lot of information. It's really just to try to be a jumping off point to get people to start thinking about this. And I want to reiterate that our goal here is not to have this conversation once. I would like this to become an annual thing where we can start talking about some of the ideas. And it doesn't have to happen at a formal meeting like this. I'll make sure that I get my contact information out to each one of you so that you can email me directly with your ideas. Or again, I'm open to sitting, talking, lunch. I like coffee as much as the next person. So I'm available to you.
I will say this. I love riding my bike. So I ride my bike all over the place. The alleys are a little bike dangerous. And one of the things that I noticed is that with the alleys, we've got kids. I've seen a lot more families playing in the alleys because in some respects, it's almost a little bit safer than the streets.
Right.
So that's a positive, except for the amount of things. So I'd like to keep our eyes peeled on any kind of community block grants, anything we can get to help fix up these alleys. And then to encourage our trash contract to also make sure they're cleaning them appropriately so that we keep that up. That's one of the things that's a big deal to me. And again, it's just because I see kids riding their bikes as well with me. The other thing is reaching out to businesses to tell them, we want to fix up our mediums. We want them to look better. What can you help reach out to us with? Getting money that way too. I have no issue with us sending out letters and saying, look, this is your community too. Let's all work together. I will say Parks and Recreation, I think they do a dynamic job. I love being a part of it, joining in on all the funds and the things that they do. They are stellar. We should be extremely proud of them. Their Facebook site is good. It gets out and reaches the people. They do a lot of social media. My hat's off to them. They deserve the awards they get. And I had patients. For Easter, for instance, I asked some of my patients, well, you're going to go do this. And they actually signed up to take their kids for the little drive down Pine Street. And they were so excited when they saw me passing out candy, but they even called me at my office and told me, thank you. Their kids had a blast. And that's what it is about. We are about a community. And that's what we have to kind of get people to realize. We're going to fix up our community. We're a 2 mile square small community, and we are stellar. And we want them to know it. And it's hard for us to get tax dollars in here because we don't have the space for your big box stores or anything. But people are shopping Amazon. I'm sorry, we're just not bringing in the revenue. And I get that. With our parks, I would love to see us not only fix up our parks, but to put in, I'm not sure what to call them, but I know that when I've been over in Rossmore, they have the parks that have the workout stations and things like this. So that might be kind of fun to do in some of these, and maybe even try to tie in some of our parks so that maybe once a year we have an event where they go park to park and do things like this so that we can utilize them in a little different fashion. But those are some of the main things. It's just kind of getting out there. Oh, the riverbed. The riverbed, the project down there, I know we don't truly own that particular thing, but it would be nice that even if we reached out to like the Boy Scouts or the schools or gave them a section to try to get them to plant some plants in there that are environmentally friendly so they don't require a lot of water. Once they get rooted, you've got to water them until that time, but maybe they could get in and do projects there, encourage the schools or something to get involved in that area. And that helps fix it up. I can tell you, when I'm on my bike, I see people off their bikes going in there, sitting down, walking around. It would encourage more people. We want these walking paths. We want them to go in there. We've got a beautiful 107 room apartment coming in. We need that fixed up to encourage them to want to walk that area. All of these things and kind of put it back in perspective of what we wanted for it. And these are the things that I kind of see. But those are the basics. I mean, I probably have a million ideas, but those are the basics. Is just really taking our community and making it shine better than anybody else's by not putting in millions, but just by cleaning it up. And getting the community involved in being a part of that project.
Well, I will say I'm starting to realize where Ron is stealing all of his good ideas from. So it's pretty clear that there's a focus here on cleanliness, making sure that our alleys are taken care of, a focus on our residents as opposed to maybe residents outside of our city. I will say, just again, not to make this all about rec, but I do know that we are getting usually someplace in the neighborhood of about $200K donated to the city annually for these types of programs that we're putting on. And that is no small feat. I think that that's actually something that doesn't get talked about enough. But there has, I think in the past, been a focus on growing some of our larger events, drawing more people. And one of the things that the council and I are discussing is I'd call it a little bit of a shift as to where exactly the focus is going to be in terms of, are we focusing on events for our residents? Are we focusing on events that draw larger crowds from the surrounding communities? No, there's no reason that we can't do both, but I do think that needs to be maybe a slight shift back to the idea that our residents need to come first. And I think that that's something that we're already starting to implement and started at the beginning of COVID to try to do that. So I believe that we're heading in the right direction. I think that there's going to be a number of things that we're going to debate here in the coming months as to where exactly certain funding goes. But it sounds like we're all kind of coalescing around 5 or 6 really kind of, I think, salient points that we need to focus on in order to move the city forward.
I tend to agree. We're very fortunate. Ron Noda has done a really great job. He stepped up into a position he really didn't realize, I think, at first how much he would be doing, but he has shined at it. He's done a terrific job. And he's got behind him Tom Oliver, who's always been right there, and he does a great job. So we have an amazing team for our planning in that. We really do. We're very, very fortunate.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And obviously the entire team works really hard, but I don't think Ron realized what exactly he was saying yes to when I asked him to move over to development services. Sure, he probably thought, oh yeah, sure, something new, it'll be exciting. And then basically the world fell on him after that. So it's a good thing he's got big shoulders.
Yeah, challenges are always healthy for us. So do I have any other comments for our city manager? I do thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, consent calendar. Nothing on it. The public hearing, we don't have anything. Do we have any staff reports that aren't listed here that I don't know about? No. No discussion. Items from the Development Services Director.
Again, thank you, Chet, for your presentation. Thank you, everyone. But I'm gonna have Tom start off with a couple items and then I'll end it.
Sounds good. I went and visited the Los Alamitos luxury apartments this week, and they are really flying. It's amazing how quickly that building is coming together. They actually are putting in kitchen cabinets at this point, which is unheard of in most projects. We went through and looked at all the drywall that they've put in, and they are just cruising through that project. It's really fun to see one of those sites while it's being built, and the apartments are going to look really neat. It's going to be a fun place to be. And then wanted to let you know on June 24th at 6 p.m., we're going to have another talk with stakeholders and anyone else that would like to attend for the town center mixed use zone again. So if you would like to join us for that, keep an eye out for it. We'll try to let you know ahead of time, and hopefully you can make it. Back to you, Ron.
I almost forgot. Michael, you have anything?
Thank you.
Okay. A couple things here. Just to let you know, but there's going to be some street work by the luxury apartment on Sausalito and Walnut Street. They will begin work on Tuesday, June 1st for approximately 3 weeks. It's a Monday through Friday project from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. So there will be some alternate routes. Traffic control will be in place. Noticing to the residents have already or will be done probably either today or tomorrow. But again, it's a 3-week project, again, Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Secondly, here is because we have Vice Chair DeBolt on the waste hauler committee, but we had our pre-mandatory meeting today, and I just want to let you know, and also the committee know that we had 10 waste hauler companies come into the waste hauler meeting. So it doesn't mean that all 10 will submit a bid to our RFP, but at the same time, if they're interested, it was mandatory for them to come. So we're going to have quite a few, hopefully, RFP or bids submitted to that RFP. And then the last thing I want to talk about is, again, something with Parks, Recreation, Culture, Arts. Recreation, Community Services. But we are planning on holding a 4th of July event on the Joint Forces Training Base. Again, that's on July 4th. The general public can, they have to reserve a ticket. It is a drive-up event where you have to come in. No pedestrians or bikes will be allowed. You have to be in a vehicle to enter the base, and you have to reserve a ticket through Eventbrite. So if you visit the city's webpage, the recreation page, you'll have all the information up there. But unlike last year, we will have stage and we'll have food vendors. So right now, it's still, again, you gotta sit in your car or be near your car. But as we move forward, the County of Orange transition, we were just notified at our meeting last Thursday that the base will no longer be doing temperature checks. They still will be asking questionnaires, a health screening, but they won't be doing the temperature check at the gates. So again, that's the 4th of July. I will send an email out to the commission because we do have a VIP area and we can reserve a VIP spot for you if you would like. And that is it. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Do I have any reports from any of the commissioners? Okay. I would like to take a moment and just say, looking at the hotel when I'm coming home now, it's really nice. And one of the things that I do want to say is thank you to all of the planning commissioners for all of their input on that, from the color, the design, and our standing up against another one that was coming in and not putting in a quick drive-through coffee thing that could have been any number of things. That looks so nice, and it really does speak volumes for all of the commissioners and the input they put on that hotel to bring something that nice to us. I do want to know, is Roland Sands Design moving? Do you know?
I am not aware of that. I don't know if Tom knows anything.
I've heard a lot of rumors that they're leaving.
That's unfortunate.
Not that they're going anywhere, but they're leaving at least.
Yeah, because I noticed the building, it looked like it was available or up for rent. I was hoping they wouldn't, because I get a lot of kids that I send to them to help learn about design and that. The other thing I do want to say is that I know that everybody over the last year and a half, it's been a lot of stress. Hats off to our police department for all the things that they've been through, to our fire department for all their work, to all our emergency services, and to all of our staff members for all the things that they had to go through to put up with the COVID and the stress that people were under. I know how difficult it is from my point of view. I can imagine what it was like for all of them on the outside and all the issues that they were dealing with. So I really do want to thank our teams out there for what they did for our community. We've done very, very well considering how some of the communities actually didn't do so well. And I also want to thank, I don't know who made the arrangements for the vaccine van to come up to try to help make it even easier for some of the people to come and get vaccines that wanted it. So hats off to the city for also getting that out and the advertisement on that. And other than that, just thank you all for all your input and all your help and all your support all the time. And other than that, I will adjourn the meeting, and you guys all have a very nice holiday weekend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Re-